To most of the galaxy, Class 9 worlds were considered uninhabitable. The storms alone could tear starships apart in low orbit. Predators hunted in packs the size of small vehicles. Seas boiled during seasonal heat shifts, then froze solid in weeks. Radiation storms swept continents clean in days, leaving only the strongest survivors. On such worlds, nothing should thrive beyond armored reptiles and scavenger insects. And yet, Earth thrived. Humans did not merely survive there, they built civilizations. To alien eyes, that was the first warning sign. The Koresh archivists recorded humanity's rise with disbelief. We had tamed fire while fighting predators that could crush steel. We'd built cities in regions where the air froze breath mid-sentence. We had sailed oceans knowing storms would claim entire fleets. We had buried our dead under volcanic ash, then rebuilt on the same ground. Most species reached the stars from worlds that nurtured them. We reached the stars from a world that tried to kill us daily. It had shaped us into something the galaxy didn't understand, and it feared what it could not understand. When humans first entered galactic society, they were considered a curiosity. We were smaller than many warrior species, slower than predator hunters. Our ships were crude, our technology years behind the core worlds. The alien diplomats saw us as a novelty, primitive survivors with interesting stories, but the soldiers, the ones who studied our combat records, saw something else. They saw the way humans adapted, the way we refused to yield even in hopeless odds. They saw a dangerous potential in our stubbornness, potential that could only come from a lifetime of surviving the impossible. And they were right to be concerned. The first war humans fought beyond Earth's skies was not one we started. The Threx Union sought to annex the Terran colonies on the fringe. They expected an easy victory against a young spacefaring species. Their fleets outnumbered ours 20-1. Their soldiers were bred for combat in low-gravity kill zones, but they had never fought in the conditions we considered normal. Within weeks, human troops had turned every battlefield into a nightmare for the invaders, and the Threx learned the first lesson about Deathworlders. We don't fight fair, we fight to win. The Galactic Council began debating humanity's classification. We were already known as a Class 9 world species, dangerous by origin. Some argued to restrict our technology and movements. Others wanted to recruit us as mercenaries for their own wars. But a few had already decided we were a threat. Plans were drawn up to contain or destroy us before we grew stronger. The trouble was, no one really knew how to do that, because on a death world, killing one thing often just made room for something worse, and we were the worst thing Earth had ever made. The first real test came during the siege of Varus 6, a cold, jagged moon at the edge of the Koresh border. The Threx had taken the surface in a week, confident the human garrison was broken. But Varus 6 was a place where the air froze skin in minutes, where razor-sharp ice storms shredded armor. The Threx soldiers had come from temperate core worlds. Their gear failed within hours. Humans, on the other hand, fought like they were born in the cold. We moved through blizzards as if they were summer winds, using the ice as cover. We didn't wait for the enemy to come. We hunted them. And that was the second thing the galaxy learned about us. Humans don't just defend, they stalk. On a death world, you are either predator or prey. We had chosen alien war analysts, tried to explain the losses in scientific terms. They claimed human night vision was superior, our muscle endurance abnormal, our pain tolerance unnatural. What they didn't understand was that this was normal to us. We were used to fighting with broken bones, to running on lungs half frozen, to bleeding into the snow. Earth had never offered us kindness. It taught us how to endure, and that endurance frightened the galaxy far more than any weapon. Because no matter how many times we were knocked down, we always got back up. And when we did, we came back harder, smarter, and angrier. That is the Death World way. The Threx retreated from Varus 6, but the damage to their pride was worse than the loss of territory. Entire companies had been wiped out by squads of humans 1/10 their size. Their survivors spoke of shadows in the snow, of voices whispering in the storm. Some swore they saw human soldiers smiling during the worst of the fighting. To the Threx, war was duty. To us, it was survival, a familiar game. They didn't know the difference between killing because you're ordered to and killing because you must. And they would learn that difference at a cost they could not afford, because survival is not a skill you can teach in safety. It is something you carve into your bones. The Galactic Council summoned Terran representatives, demanding explanations. We told them the truth, that Earth had shaped us this way, and we had shaped each other. We didn't become Death Worlders by choice. We became them because we had to. On Earth, weakness is an invitation to be consumed, and that truth follows us wherever we go. The Council saw this as proof that we were too dangerous to be left unchecked. But the smaller worlds, the ones tired of living under larger empires, began to see us differently. They saw us not as monsters, but as shields that could bite, and that scared the Council even more. The coalition formed in secret, a pact between the Threx, Koresh, and 3 other empires. Their plan was simple: strike at Earth directly, burn the cradle, end the threat. They sent stealth fleets through wormholes, bypassing the Terran defense perimeter. They thought they were hunting us. They didn't realize they'd stepped into a hunting ground we had prepared for centuries. Every asteroid between the wormholes and Sol had been seeded with automated weapons. Gravity mines dragged ships into kill zones where rail guns fired from hidden stations. The coalition fleets were gutted before they even reached Mars, and those who escaped found themselves pursued by things faster than light. The coalition admirals underestimated the Terran obsession with preparation. They believed their technological edge would outweigh our aggression. They didn't understand that on a death world, you prepare for the worst even when you expect the best. Our ships were ugly by galactic standards, scarred, over-armored, redundant systems everywhere. We built them not to win duels, but to survive disasters. A Terran dreadnought could lose half its hull and still tear apart an enemy cruiser. It could fight blind, burning, and leaking atmosphere and still refuse to die. And that refusal was not a design flaw, it was the point. If we were still breathing, we were still fighting. The battle in the Belt was recorded as a massacre by alien historians. They described it as if the void itself had turned against the coalition. Ships vanished into debris clouds without warning, hit by invisible projectiles. Enemy boarding parties found themselves trapped in corridors that vented into space. Others discovered that the humans they cornered had no intention of surrendering alive. Self-destruct charges took whole decks with them, ensuring no kill was free. The coalition learned that in fighting humans, victory often cost more than defeat, because our goal wasn't just to survive, it was to make sure you didn't. And if we had to burn with you, so be it. The survivors limped back to their homeworlds with horror stories. They spoke of human ships ramming at suicidal speeds, of Marines fighting in vacuum without suits. They told of a woman, Admiral Kira Salas, standing on the bridge of a burning ship, still issuing orders. They described her as if she were death itself, given flesh, unblinking in the firelight. The galaxy had seen many warriors before, but never one who treated war like weather, inevitable and survivable. Rumors spread that Kira was not the only one, that Earth bred hundreds like her. And in the shadows of the council chambers, the question began to grow. If this was what humanity was now, what would we become in another 100 years? No one liked the answer. The galaxy thought it knew war. It had seen empires rise and fall, fleets burn, worlds turn to ash. But what happened next was not war, it was education. Humanity stopped fighting reactively and started choosing battlefields. We struck where the enemy felt safe. Core worlds, secure stations, capital fleets in dock. Our strikes weren't about territory or resources. They were about teaching the coalition one thing: Nowhere is safe when Deathworlders decide you're prey. And when we moved with purpose. Every strike left a message written in wreckage. You cannot hide from us. On the jungle moon of Varun, a Koresh fortress city fell in less than an hour. The defenders expected orbital bombardment, but instead they heard nothing. No alarms, no warnings. Then the power died, comms went silent, and the shadows moved. Human troops, clad in adaptive armor, emerged from the foliage like ghosts. We didn't rush. We dismantled them piece by piece, cutting command lines, isolating squads. By the time the Koresh realized they were under full assault, half their leadership was dead. We didn't need heavy artillery. The jungle itself fought for us. Predators, attracted by the scent of blood, joined the slaughter. For us, it was simply another Tuesday on a death world. Alien strategists tried to counter with overwhelming force, burn entire zones to kill the humans. They didn't understand that we weren't holding those zones. We were already gone. We fought like Earth's weather, violent, unpredictable, impossible to contain. If we lost a battle, we made the victory so costly it felt like defeat. Our dead were never abandoned. If their bodies couldn't be recovered, their killers joined them. That kind of commitment didn't come from training manuals. It came from living on a planet where nothing spared you. And the more the Coalition fought us, the more they realized they were learning the wrong lesson. They weren't learning how to beat us. They were learning how to become like us. And that was a change they feared even more. Some alien historians later called this period the Turning. It was when the Coalition stopped trying to destroy us and started trying to contain us. They signed treaties to limit expansion, offered trade agreements to buy our loyalty. But their diplomats didn't understand the core truth of humanity. We didn't want their peace if it came with their chains. We had survived on the most dangerous planet in known space. Why would we bow to anything less? Our acceptance of peace was never submission. It was preparation. Because Deathworlders don't stop when the shooting ends. We simply sharpen the knives for next time. In the end, the Coalition didn't fall to human fleets. It fell to human patience. We outlasted them the same way we outlasted ice ages, plagues, and extinction events. While they spent their strength fighting us, we spent ours building more strength. Their resources bled away, their unity frayed, and their leaders aged into weakness. We didn't need to break them. We let their own fear do it. Every rumor of a Terran sighting, every shadow on their sensors, drained them a little more. Until, finally, they stopped chasing the storm, and the storm, just as suddenly, was gone. Admiral Kira Salas gave her final address aboard the Iron Dawn, orbiting a nameless rock in deep space. She spoke not to the Coalition, but to every Terran world and colony. We do not fight for bloodlust. We fight because the world that made us gave us no other choice. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the void like a gunshot. Remember that every star we visit, every ship we board, every enemy we face, none of it will be as hard as where we came from. Earth forged us. We do not forget our forge. For those listening in alien space, the message was clear. We were not leaving because we were weak. We were leaving because we had already proven our point, and we had no need to prove it twice. The Coalition eventually disbanded, its members retreating into their own disputes. Some empires collapsed entirely, their people scattered among the stars. Others became strangely deferential to humans, offering trade without the usual duplicity. They called us allies in public, but in private they called us something else, Deathwalkers. They treated us with the same respect predators show each other in the wild. Not friendship, not love, mutual recognition. A quiet agreement never to test the other unless they wanted the fight of their lives. And for humanity, that was enough. Centuries later, alien children still whisper the stories of the storms that came from nowhere, of soldiers who smiled in blizzards, of a world where even the grass could kill. They tell of a species that was shaped by constant danger and somehow turned it into strength. Some scholars call it myth, others know better. Because when the stars grow quiet and the sensors glitch, some captains swear they hear a voice on the comms. A voice speaking in old Terran tongue, low and calm. And it always says the same thing before the signal cuts. We were born where death lives.